Reacher Season 3's new villain is just the kind of bad guy the Prime Video show needs. After Season 2, with Reacher Season 3's villain now unveiled, it's becoming abundantly clear just what the show has been missing all this time. Although all the bad guys in Reacher so far have brought something new to the table, Alan Ritchson's titular protagonist faces a brilliant new challenge as Amazon moves on to adapt another of Lee Child's Jack Reacher books. From what's been shown in the teaser trailer, it looks like audiences are set to watch an entirely new kind of struggle for Reacher's main character. The Reacher Season 3 cast is tasked with bringing Persuader to life, the 7th book in Child's series. As has been the case with the previous 2 runs, Ritchson is one of the only returning actors after the end of Reacher Season 2, with Maria Sten's Frances Neagley being the other character to come back for another round. However, it's one of the show's newcomers who has already stolen the limelight, casting a shadow over Reacher's leading man. Reacher Season 3's Polly is the physical threat Alan Ritchson's character hasn't yet faced. Reacher Seasons 1 and 2 have adapted Killing Floor and Bad Luck and Trouble respectively. Although they've been great live-action versions of the stories, the villains have been largely string pullers rather than physically imposing presences. For example, all 4 Reacher Season 2 villains certainly acted nefariously, but none of them lasted very long in a face-to-face confrontation with Ritchson's hulking physique and military training. Thankfully, Reacher Season 3's antagonist changes all that, as Olivia Richter's as Polly makes Ritchson look tiny by comparison. Amazon's recently released teaser proves that Reacher won't be able to take down his new foe with brute force. This is usually how he overthrows bad guys, so the revelation is both worrying and exciting. Polly presents an entirely new challenge to the show's hero, so even with Neagley in his ear, it remains unclear just how Reacher will emerge victorious. Presumably, Polly will meet his end in a gruesome way, just like many of his predecessors. Reacher Season 1 saw Ritchson's character team up with Roscoe Conklin, Willa Fitzgerald, and Oscar Finley, Malcolm Goodwin, and Reacher Season 2 saw the reunion of the 110th Special Investigations Unit. So Reacher was never without direct assistance and backup. However, Persuader, which will form the basis of Reacher Season 3, has the franchise's main character head undercover, so if he is discovered, he is on his own. Being installed behind enemy lines puts Reacher at far more risk than he has already experienced, and the scenario is made even more dangerous by the fact he has no friends with him and a terrifying bad guy is towering over him. Of course, it seems very unlikely that Ritchson's character will emerge as anything other than the victor of Reacher Season 3's inevitable final fight scene, but that doesn't mean it won't be a thrilling adventure. Reacher Season 3 has already sparked anticipation, especially with the announcement of a new villain who promises to raise the stakes. After Season 2's thrilling but somewhat more personal and intimate plot, the show seems primed to introduce a darker, more formidable antagonist. For a series based on Lee Child's action-packed novels and centered around the towering, enigmatic Jack Reacher, the upcoming season will need a villain who not only challenges Reacher physically, but also mentally. Season 3's villain could be just the type of bad guy the Prime Video series needs to keep viewers glued to their screens, building on the foundation laid in previous seasons, while upping the tension. The importance of a strong villain in Reacher, one of the key components to Reacher's success, is its ability to adapt the larger-than-life character of Jack Reacher. Reacher is a force of nature, a drifter with a military background, taking justice into his own hands. He is smart, resourceful, and has an almost mythic reputation for his combat prowess. So when it comes to choosing a villain, the show must introduce someone who can stand up to the physical and mental threat Reacher poses. In the first season, Reacher faced a corrupt and violent conspiracy in the town of Margrave. The villains were a mixture of small-town thugs, corrupt officials, and a criminal mastermind operating from the shadows. The stakes were high, the villains were vicious, and Reacher had to push his limits to dismantle the web of corruption. The dynamic between Reacher and the villains was a key driver of the plot, making the audience feel like Reacher was up against something truly sinister. In Season 2, Reacher faced a more personal enemy from his past. While still thrilling, the season took a more introspective approach, giving fans a closer look at Reacher's internal conflicts and emotional scars. While Season 2 did have its share of thrilling action and dangerous moments, some viewers felt that the scope was slightly reduced, with a villain who is more personally connected to Reacher rather than a larger-than-life adversary. For Season 3, the series has the opportunity to introduce a villain that takes Reacher's story to the next level, a villain who is not just a threat to Reacher's life, but to the lives of many. The new villain, a return to the epic scale as Season 3 draws closer, speculation is mounting about the new villain and how they will fit into the narrative. Early reports suggest that this villain will be much more calculated, dangerous, and far-reaching than those of the previous seasons. The kind of antagonist that has influence, resources, and a cold, ruthless demeanor, making them a more cerebral match for Reacher's strength and tactical mind. What Season 3 needs is a villain who isn't just a physical opponent, but someone who is a master manipulator with a deep, malevolent agenda that threatens more than just Reacher himself. This villain should challenge Reacher's detective skills and sense of justice, pushing him to confront ethical dilemmas that force him to rethink his own values. It could be a villain whose schemes affect entire communities or even national security, giving Reacher a reason to step into a much larger fight. This would be a departure from the personal vendetta of Season 2 and bring the show back to the more expansive, global threat Reacher often faces in the books. Such a villain would echo some of the most iconic antagonists from Lee Child's novels, figures who have power, intelligence, and networks of criminals at their disposal. These kinds of characters draw out Reacher's full potential as a former military police officer with expertise in counterintelligence, allowing him to use both brawn and brain to take down foes. Season 3's villain could take inspiration from these classic antagonists, becoming a criminal mastermind whose reach extends beyond one town, city, or state. Raising the stakes. What the new villain needs to accomplish in order to truly raise the stakes and capture the audience's attention, the new villain needs to represent a significant escalation of danger. One possibility is that the villain is part of an organized crime syndicate, a powerful multinational corporation, or even a shadowy government figure with dark motives. This would introduce a new layer of complexity to the plot, as Reacher isn't just fighting a person, but an entire system of corruption and power. The villain could also have a personal vendetta against Reacher, perhaps someone who has crossed paths with him during his time in the military police. This would give the villain a deep understanding of Reacher's strengths and weaknesses, allowing them to create traps that test Reacher's limits. A villain with a personal grudge could tap into Reacher's past in a way that challenges him emotionally and mentally, giving the audience a deeper look at Reacher's vulnerabilities. Moreover, a more strategic and cunning villain could allow for a multifaceted plotline where Reacher has to outsmart his enemies at every turn. It could involve layers of deception, false identities, and a battle of wits that keeps the tension high throughout the season. Reacher often succeeds because of his quick thinking and ability to read people, and a villain who plays the same game would make for a compelling adversary. Such a character could serve as the puppet master behind a series of crimes, with Reacher working to unmask the villain while navigating moral gray areas. Building toward an explosive conclusion, ultimately, the key to making the villain in Reacher Season 3 the right fit is ensuring that they are a true test of Reacher's abilities.